Hola, clase de español 3. Hello, Spanish 3. This week, there's a surprising amount of vocabulary, quite a bit. So for this screencast today, I'm just going to be going over the pronunciations of each, and maybe on your own time in advance, if you wish to write down the actual definitions or spend some time doing definitions. Of course, they're in the back of the book. I believe they're on page 185 for this week and for the next several, as a matter of fact. But anyways, I'll briefly be going over pronunciation of new vocab, and our our grammar for this week is pretty simple. It's just an extension of subjunctive mode. If you remember, last week we talked a little bit about, or the week previous, we spoke about how if there's any kind of wish or desire for something to happen, that thing that you want to happen would be in the subjunctive mode instead of the indicative. Well, we're going to build on that. There's some other trigger ideas that make us look into subjunctive instead of indicative, and I'll briefly expound on some of those and a couple other small details, and that will be it. Most of the actual definitions we'll work on in class via interaction and just verbal drilling. So here we go. Let's go ahead and get started. Introducing and changing a topic of conversation. A propósito, cambiando de tema, ¿qué me dice este? Ese me hace pensar en, eso me recuerda, hablando de, ¿has leído algo de? ¿Qué has oído de? ¿Qué me cuentas que? ¿Qué me cuentas de? Antiguo, aprender a más infinitivo, el artista or la artista, el bailarín or la bailarina, moving around a little bit here, el or la cantante, contemporáneo, la danza, el dibujo, diseñar, el escultor or la escultora, la estatua, la exhibición, intentar, el músico or la música, la orquesta, patrocinar, la pintura. Some expressing needs. You'll notice that for this next section here, that all of these have some sort of a subjunctive mood or a subjunctive mode afterwards. Es importante que reconozcas. Es necesario que busquemos. Hace falta que pintemos. Moving on. Expressing an opinion. Admiro mucho. Lo encuentro, or la encuentro, depending on if it's masculine or feminine. Me cae gordo. Me deja frío. Me parece que. No lo soporto, or no la soporto. Para decir la verdad. Para ser sincero. ¿Qué opinas de? ¿Qué te parece? And our last section, some descriptions. Creativa or creativo. Obviously, this is got to be fixed there. There we go. De muy mal gusto. Entretenido. Formidable. Genial. Hermoso. Imaginativo. Incomprensible. Insignificante. Insoportable. Magnífico. Una obra maestra. My goodness. Pésimo. Irrealista. And so, obviously quite a big group of vocab words and phrases. So we have a lot to do to practice them this week and to practice pronouncing and to commit to memory. We'll take that in stride when we start, when we meet in class, when we come back. Let's go ahead and take a look at our grammar for this chapter. Introducing and changing a topic of conversation. That was actually a little bit more to do with the vocab. Expressing what needs to be done. Expressing an opinion. that gets us into the subjunctive a little bit more. I'm going to have to move myself around a little bit here. Give me just a moment. And there we go. Okay, so subjunctive after expressions of need. So last week we were doing things like ojalá que, quiero que, like I want for this to happen, or hopefully this happens, like a hope or an ambition. You can also use a subjunctive whenever something needs to be done as well. So let me just read through this. You learn in chapter 5 that verbs are in the subjunctive mood when they come after expressions of hopes and wishes, like espero que la guerra termine pronto. I hope that the war ends soon. So for number 2, our second rule, verbs are also in the subjunctive mood when they come after expressions of importance or need for something to do something. Example at the bottom here, es necesario que practiquemos un deporte. So in this case, we've sort of evaluated the fact that we need to practice or that we need to play this sport by saying that it's necessary. And that's something that's an overarching rule that we haven't got to yet. The subjunctive is basically based on whenever there's value given to the thing to be done, whether it's a need, a want, a desire, whether you doubt it's going to happen or not. These are all ways of evaluating it. So it's kind of an evaluative mode, but I digress. Es necesario means it's necessary that we practice. Now notice that usually practicar is an AR verb, but in this case it's practiquemos with a QUE. It's got the spelling change. It's now conjugated like an ER verb as a result of the subjunctive mode change. So kind of a lot going on there, which of course we're going to dissect a lot more in class. Next. I'll move myself down again. Here we go. That's good enough. You're going to use the infinitive after these expressions if something needs to be done in general or by everyone. So if you say like it's necessary for something to happen in general instead of it's necessary for you to do this or it's necessary for me to do this, we'll just use an infinitive afterwards and we don't have to conjugate anything. So when you're talking about general rules, that makes it a little bit easier. Example, es necesario practicar un deporte. Means one should or it's necessary to play a sport. If I want to say it's necessary for you to play a sport, that'd be different. Then I'd be conjugating the subjunctive mode. It would be es necesario que practiques un deporte. So notice there's no que there, and we left it in its infinitive form. Now you may remember cargar and zar verbs from negative commands back in Spanish too. Like if you're to say, you know, don't look for something, it'd be no busques, and then the C would become a QUE. The same thing actually occurs using subjunctive modes as well. So the subjunctive forms of verbs that end in car or CAR, gar, and zar have the following spelling changes. C will become a QU, like busque or busques. A G will become a GU, as in llegue and llegues. And a C will remain the same in verbs like empezar, okay? Or I'm sorry, Z spelling changes will become a C. So the verb empezar, which is a ZAR verb, will become empiece or empieces. Okay, we're going to hash out a lot more of that in class, of course. That's kind of a lot to sift through. So I hope that this introduction helped you at least understand the beginnings of it a little bit better. Bring those great questions with you to class, and looking forward to doing more subjunctives in class starting next week. Ciao, hasta luego y adios.